And we also collected some questions from our audience. May I convey their questions to you?
Of course.
And one of our audience is wondering, which organ do you believe has the most significant impact during the plasma infusion? Are there effects across all biological clocks during the intervention?
There seems to be effects among all the cellular biological clocks during this intervention. Some organs are seem to react more strongly to the intervention. As I mentioned, the liver and the kidney seem to react more strongly. The brain reacts strongly, and inflammation reacts strongly. Within 4 days, we found inflammation levels drop to youthful levels. You were talking about senescent cells and SASP, who is senescence associated in that the senescent cells start producing inflammatory factors. And we saw inflammatory factors, particularly the ones produced by senescent cells like IL-6, TGF-alpha, go down to youthful levels within 4 days. And my hand also went down to youthful appearance within 4 days. So it's very quick and it's very lasting, at least in humans, and then in rats too. They continue to age, but they age at a normal rate. And they can be rejuvenated and brought back to youthfulness any number of times. Ultimately, the majority of our treated rats died at an older than normal age, and Seema was the exception. Why she was the exception, I have no idea, because her lifespan extended far beyond those of other rats, and we had stopped treating her almost 6 months before she died, and she was 6 months older than any living rat when she died. I wasn't in Mumbai at the time, and I don't know why Kavita, our principal investigator, stopped the treatment. But
so apparently, a lot of biomarkers have changed a lot, right? Yes, shortly after fusion.
Yes. It took longer for brain biomarkers to change, but they did. And some biomarkers changed very, very quickly. And my thought is if we started the intervention early enough, the people would never know old age. Old age would be something that was in the storybooks. That's my hope.
Yeah, there is also. And another question is about, can the blood exchange technology also help Alzheimer's diseases? Is there any related study?
We don't know. We don't know. And rats don't get Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
They do have a normal decrease in cognition, as occurs in old people, in most old people. But they don't develop Alzheimer's disease. So we'd need a model of Alzheimer's disease. And probably eventually in our human trials, we'll get that. I don't like models. They have models of diseases wherein you basically set up a straw man and knock it down. You know that a particular genetic defect will cause the disease, and then you inject whatever that is lacking because of that defect, and the animal magically is cured. So I don't trust models. I trust actual diseases that occurred or don't occur with aging. So none of our rats had any sort of treatment to make them older. We started with old rats and made them
Naturally aging.
younger. Oh, and one thing we didn't publish because unfortunately in India, the technology is, well, as you know, India has a lander on the moon right now. So obviously they have some excellent technology. But in terms of where we were, we just didn't have the equipment or technology. But we did histological examinations of various organs post-mortem, ex vivo, as they say, politically correct term, meaning they were once alive. So, and there we found by staining for senescence-associated beta-galactosidase, it's a normal test for cellular senescence. We found senescent cells are stained blue. Normal cells aren't stained at all. We found the blue disappeared or mostly disappeared in our treated old rats, which meant that senescent cells were gone too. Whether they died naturally or they reverted to a younger phenotype, that we don't know yet. There's still so much to do. But the effect, was clearly there. They were smarter. They were smart as young rats. Young rats are pretty smart. Young mice are horrible little creatures. They're dumb and they tend to eat each other if they're hungry enough. But rats are very, very nice animals. They cuddle together, they lick each other, they take care of each other. I mean, I wouldn't like them in my house, but I've actually had friends who had pet rats, and they said they were very intelligent, like having cats.
So the next question, I'm not sure whether you've noticed the Bryan Johnson's family, who underwent Bryan Johnson, yeah, who
Is this a
underwent,
fellow who uses his son's
yeah,
blood? Yeah,
to, yeah.
I vaguely looked at that, and I think
What's your
that's
opinion on it? Do you think, actually their attempt failed eventually, right? Yeah,
right, and
because what
because
do you think?
it's a question of quantity,
Uh,
and it's a question of concentration. We use concentrations that are abnormal, that you would not find in a normal animal. In those heterochronic parabiosis studies where they connected an old rat and a young rat or a young mouse and an old mouse, they saw intermediate effects because a young mouse and an old mouse have different weights, different masses. So most of the blood in the dual circulatory system was contributed by the old animal. In our case, we have a more than a young animal's amount of youth promoting factors present in their blood, so that in a matter of a very short time, we see the change from old to young, and it's obvious and visible and measurable, more importantly. So,
mm,
so, so you really, if you wanted to do as we wanted to do with that billionaire, as I told you about in the beginning of our interview, uh, we want to replace his plasma with young plasma. Now, my guess is it would have worked, and it would have given him a few extra years, but it would not have brought him back to vibrant youth. But I think our present method, so it was a very good thing that it failed, or that he quoted. Yeah, if we had success, we might have continued along that path and never gotten to where we have gotten now. So, as I say, I attribute at least a good part of it to luck
Yeah.
or to
So
fate,
maybe,
you
yeah.
would.
So maybe the last question. What is
If you
the,
if you
yeah,
read my book,
oh, the illusion? Yeah, this book.
yeah, it's called The Illusion of Knowledge, and the quote is, let me see if I can read it, if I even have it. Oh, yes. The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge. So people thought they knew how aging worked, and they proceeded in the wrong direction for more than a century because they were sure they knew. In fact, when I first had my idea, I contacted a famous aging scientist, Aubrey de Grey, who honestly we owe a lot to, because he was the first person to ever believe that it was really possible to reverse aging. In any case, when I told him my idea, the first thing he said to me is, well, this is why it won't work. And tried to explain to me about how aging works by the old paradigm and wouldn't listen to me. I think he's changed his mind at this point. Uh, but that was the real barrier to knowledge, the belief that we really knew how it happened when we didn't. So that's why I called the book The Illusion of Knowledge. And
Yeah, due to the time limit, maybe we have our last question.
sure.
So, so what's your expectations or what's your next step for the anti-aging research of blood exchange? Do you think what kind of challenges may lie ahead, or your expectation on the aging field as a whole? Yeah.
Honestly, I don't see anything untowards happening. I don't see anything bad happening.
Mhm.
I believe that we have a product that could be used right now if we could obtain sufficient amounts of it for studies. Our major limitation at this point is money, which is really bizarre if you think about it. Governments, governments, your government, my government, spend millions or billions of dollars in developing weapons, and yet for a tiny fraction of that, we could end aging, and that's our biggest holdup at this point.
Yeah. Really, thank you for answering the questions from our passionate audience. And it seems that we run out of our time. And though not willing to, our interview is coming to an end. It's really appreciate that you accepted our interview and share with us detailed and fruitful interpretation of the blood exchange study and its future, and its future development. And thank you
I,
again for sharing on the
I
topic.
want everybody to have hope.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
will happen, and this will happen in your life. There's no question about it.
Definitely.
Okay, so
Thank you. Bye. Goodbye. Looking forward to future interactions. Goodbye.
bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you.